Scenario 13. Culture. Real Scene 4. Great Leaders. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. Abraham Lincoln. My goal: to learn and apply the past modals for degrees of certainty and the past modals for opinions and advice. Also, to learn something about some of the greatest leaders in human history.
Introductory questions. 1. What makes a leader great? 2. What do you know about Napoleon Bonaparte? 3. Do you believe great leaders are only political?
Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, transliterated Megas Alexandros, birthplace Pella, Macedon, Greece, July 20th or 26th, 356 BC, to June the 10th, 323 BC. King of Macedon, 336 to 323 BC, was arguably the most successful military commander of ancient history, conquering most of the known world before his death. Born in 356 BC in Pella, Macedonia, Alexander is also known in Zoroastrian Middle Persian works such as the Ardaviras as the accursed Alexander, due to his destruction of the Persian Empire and its capital, Persepolis. He is also known in Eastern traditions as Dul Karnayan, the two-horned one. Apparently due to an image on coins minted during his rule that seemingly depicted him with the two ram's horns of the Egyptian god Ammon. In Iran, northwest India, and modern-day Pakistan, he is known as Sikandar-e-Azam, Alexander the Great. And many male children are named Sikandar or Iskandar after him. Following the unification of the multiple city-states of ancient Greece under the rule of his father, Philip II of Macedon, a labour Alexander had to repeat twice because the southern Greeks rebelled after Philip's death, Alexander conquered the Persian Empire, including Anatolia, Syria, Phoenicia, Gaza, Egypt, Bactria, and Mesopotamia, and extended the boundaries of his own empire as far as the Punjab. Alexander integrated non-Greeks into his army and administration, leading some scholars to credit him with the policy of fusion. He encouraged marriage between Greeks and non-Greeks and practiced it himself. After 12 years of constant military campaigning, Alexander died, possibly of malaria, typhoid, or a viral encephalitis. His conquests ushered in centuries of Greek settlement and rule over non-Greek areas, a period known as the Hellenistic Age. Alexander himself lived on in the history and myth of both Greek and non-Greek peoples. Already during his lifetime, and especially after his death, his exploits inspired a literary tradition in which he appears as a towering legendary hero in the tradition of Achilles. Aristotle was Alexander's tutor. He gave Alexander a thorough training in rhetoric and literature and stimulated his interest in science, medicine, and philosophy. After his visit to the oracle of Ammon at Siwa, according to all 5 of the extant historians, Arrian, Curtius, Diodorus, Justin, and Plutarch, rumours spread that the oracle had revealed Alexander's father to be Zeus rather than Philip. According to Plutarch, his father descended from Heracles through Caranus, and his mother descended from Arcas through Neoptolemus and Achilles. Various national, ethnic, and cultural origins regard him as a national hero. They argue that historical accounts describing Alexander's relations with Hephaestion and Bagoas as sexual were written centuries after the fact, and thus it can never be established what the real relationship between Alexander and his male companions were. Others argue that the same can be said about all our information regarding Alexander. Such debates, however, are considered anachronistic by scholars of the period, who point out that the concept of homosexuality did not exist in Greco-Roman antiquity. Sexual attraction between males was seen as a normal and universal part of human nature, since it was believed that men were attracted to beauty, an attribute of the young, regardless of gender. If Alexander's love life was transgressive, it was not for his love of beautiful youths, but for his involvement with a man his own age. In a time when the standard model of male love was pederastic. On the afternoon of June the 10th, 11th, 323 BC, Alexander died of a mysterious illness in the palace of Nebuchadrezzar II of Babylon. He was only 33 years old. Various theories have been proposed for the cause of his death, which include poisoning by the sons of Antipater, sickness that followed a drinking party, or a relapse of the malaria he had contracted in 336 BC. After Alexander's death, his empire was divided amongst his officers. First, mostly with the pretense of preserving a united kingdom, later with the explicit formation of rival monarchies and territorial states. Ultimately, the conflict was settled after the Battle of Ipsus in Phrygia in 301 BC. Alexander's empire was divided at first into four major portions. Cassandra ruled in Macedon, Lysimachus in Thrace, Seleucus in Mesopotamia and Iran, and Ptolemy in the Levant and Egypt. Antigonus ruled for a while in Asia Minor and Syria, but was eventually defeated by the other generals at Ipsus, 301 BC. Control over Indian territory was short-lived, ending when Seleucus was defeated by Chandragupta Maurya, the first Mauryan emperor.
Grammar Structure 1. Past modals for degrees of certainty. Probability. She must have left already. She must not have wanted to come. She couldn't have forgotten the party. Possibility. She may have forgotten our invitation. She may not have wanted to come. She might have forgotten the time. She might not have remembered the time. Her car could have broken down. Writing. Exercise. Read each situation and choose the best explanation. 1. Anna wasn't in a very good mood today. A. She could have gotten a raise. 2. Brian got a call and looked worried. B. He must not have slept. 3. The teacher looked very pleased today. C. He may have been to the casino again. 4. Sam couldn't keep his eyes open. D. He could have heard good news. 5. Tom was fired from his job. E. She may have fought with her boyfriend. 6. David seems to be broke. F. He might not have done his work.
Gaius Julius Caesar. Born July 13th, 100 BC. Died March 15th, 44 BC. He was a Roman military and political leader. He was instrumental in the transformation of the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire. His conquest of Gaul extended the Roman world all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, introducing Roman influence into what has become modern France, of which direct consequences are visible to this day. The conquest also led to the gradual extinction of many Celtic languages in Gaul. In 55 BC, Caesar launched the first Roman invasion of Britain. Caesar fought and won a civil war, which left him undisputed master of the Roman world, and began extensive reforms of Roman society and government. He was proclaimed dictator for life and heavily centralized the already faltering government of the weak republic. Caesar's friend, Marcus Brutus, conspired with others to assassinate Caesar in hopes of saving the Republic. The dramatic assassination on the Ides of March sparked a new civil war between the Caesarians, Octavian, Mark Antony, Lepidus, and Republicans, Brutus, Cassius, and Cicero, among others. This conflict ended with a Caesarian victory at the Battle of Philippi, and the formal establishment of the Second Triumvirate, in which Octavian, Antony, and Lepidus shared control of Rome. Tensions between Octavian and Antony soon plunged Rome into further civil war, culminating in Antonio's defeat at the Battle of Actium and leaving Octavian as the undisputed leader of the Roman world. This period of civil war transformed the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire, with Caesar's great-nephew and adopted son Octavian, later known as Caesar Augustus, installed as the first emperor. Caesar's military campaigns are known in detail from his own written commentaries, commentari, and many details of his life are recorded by later historians such as Suetonius, Plutarch, and Cassius Dio. Napoleon Bonaparte, August 15, 1769 to May 5, 1821, was a general of the French Revolution and the ruler of France as first consul, premier consul, of the French Republic from November 11, 1799 to May 18, 1804. Then as Emperor of the French, Empereur de France, and King of Italy under the name Napoleon I from May 18, 1804 to April 6, 1814, and again briefly from March 20th to June 22nd, 1815. Napoleon developed a number of innovative military strategies that led to many successful campaigns and surprising victories, as well as some spectacular failures. Over the course of little more than a decade, he fought virtually every European power and acquired control of most of the western and central mainland of Europe by conquest or alliance until his disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812, followed by defeat at the Battle of the Nations near Leipzig in October 1813, which led to his abdication several months later. He staged a comeback known as the 100 Days, les 100 Jours, but was again defeated decisively at the Battle of Waterloo in Belgium on June 18, 1815, followed shortly afterwards by his surrender to the British and his exile to the island of St. Helena, where he died. Aside from his military achievements, Napoleon is also remembered for the establishment of the Napoleonic Code, for which he is considered by many to have been one of the enlightened monarchs. Others regard him as a tyrannical dictator whose wars and rule led to the death of millions and the permanent loss of prestige for France. Napoleon appointed several members of the Bonaparte family as monarchs. Although their reigns did not survive his downfall, a nephew, Napoleon III, ruled France later in the 19th century. Bonaparte instituted several lasting reforms, including centralized administration of the departments, higher education, a tax system, a central bank, law codes, and road and sewer systems. He negotiated the Concordat of 1801 with the Catholic Church, seeking to reconcile the mostly Catholic population with his regime. His set of civil laws, the Napoleonic Code or Civil Code, has importance to this day in many countries. The code was prepared by committees of legal experts under the supervision of Jean-Jacques Régis de Cambacérès, who held the office second consul from 1799 to 1804. Bonaparte, however, participated actively in the sessions of the Council of State that revised the draft. Other codes were commissioned by Bonaparte to codify criminal and commerce law. In 1808, a Code of Criminal Instruction was published, which enacted precise rules of judicial procedure. Although contemporary standards may consider these procedures as favouring the prosecution, when enacted they sought to preserve personal freedoms and to remedy the prosecutorial abuses commonplace in European courts.
Grammar Structure 2. Past models for opinions and advice. He should have left early. I would have asked her to leave. He shouldn't have stayed so late. I wouldn't have stayed so late. He could have been more considerate. You could have reminded him of the time. Writing. Exercise. Read this situation, think of a suggestion or comments. Fred's friend borrowed his motorcycle and dented it. When he returned it, he didn't say anything to Fred about it. What would you have done if you were Fred? What should his friend have done?
Emperor of the French. Main articles. First French Empire, Third Coalition, Fourth Coalition in January 1804. Bonaparte's police discovered an assassination plot against him, ostensibly sponsored by the Bourbons. In retaliation, Bonaparte ordered the arrest of the Duc de Gengien in a violation of the sovereignty of Baden. After a hurried secret trial, the Duke was executed on March the 21st. Bonaparte then used this incident to justify the recreation of a hereditary monarchy in France with himself as emperor, on the theory that a Bourbon restoration would be impossible once the Bonapartist succession was entrenched in the constitution. Napoleon crowned himself emperor on December 2nd, 1804, at Notre Dame Cathedral. Claims that he seized the crown out of the hands of Pope Pius VII during the ceremony in order to avoid subjecting himself to the authority of the pontiff are apocryphal. In fact, the coronation procedure had been agreed upon in advance. After the imperial regalia had been blessed by the Pope, Napoleon crowned himself before crowning his wife, Josephine, as empress. Then at Milan's cathedral on May 26, 1805, Napoleon was crowned King of Italy with the Iron Crown of Lombardy. By 1805, Britain instigated a third coalition against Napoleon. Napoleon knew the French fleet could not defeat the Royal Navy and therefore arranged to lure the British fleet away from the English Channel so that a joint Spanish and French fleet could regain control of the Channel for 24 hours. Enough for French armies to cross to England. However, with Austria and Russia preparing an invasion of France and its allies, he had to change his plans and turn his attention to the continent. The newly born Grande Armée secretly marched towards Germany. On October the 20th, 1805, it surprised the Austrians at Ulm. The next day, however, at the Battle of Trafalgar, October the 21st, 1805, Britain gained lasting control of the seas. A few weeks later, Napoleon secured a major victory against Austria and Russia at Austerlitz, December the 2nd, forcing Austria yet again to sue for peace. A fourth coalition was assembled the following year, and Napoleon defeated Prussia at the Battle of Jena-Auerstedt, October 14, 1806. He marched on against advancing Russian armies through Poland and was attacked at the bloody Battle of Eylau on February the 6th, 1807. After a major victory at Friedland, he signed a treaty at Tilsit in East Prussia with Tsar Alexander I of Russia, dividing Europe between the two powers. He placed puppet rulers on the thrones of German states, including his brother, Jerome, as king of the new state of Westphalia. In the French part of Poland, he established the Duchy of Warsaw with King Frederick Augustus I of Saxony as ruler. Between 1809 and 1813, Napoleon also served as regent of the Grand Duchy of Berg for his brother Louis Bonaparte. Ludwig van Beethoven initially dedicated his Third Symphony, the Eroica, Italian for heroic, to Napoleon, in the belief that the general would sustain the democratic and republican ideals of the French Revolution. But in 1804, as Napoleon's imperial ambitions became clear, renamed the symphony as the Sinfonia Eroica, composta de festeggiare il sovvenire di un grand uomo, or in English, composed to celebrate the memory of a great man.
Research Spot. Look for more information about Number 1. Current world political leaders. Number 2. Simon Bolivar. Number 3. Miguel Hidalgo y Costilla.